It's the morning of April 20th, 2022, and Judy Castine in the camera, Calvin Castine in a place we've been several times before, and talking to some people we've talked to several times before, and we're here to talk about the North Country Honor Flight 2022 version. Now, we had some flights last year, but 2020 we had none. Is that correct, as I recall?
That's absolutely correct. We were very fortunate to get off 2 sets of flights. We sent 2 planes on each day last fall, which sent almost 60 veterans down to DC. And as important as that is to alleviate our waiting list. That's our biggest issue right now. We got so many people from that 2020 where we didn't fly, and only half a year last year that crucial to get these people down there. We're losing a lot of them while they're waiting to go, which is unacceptable.
Okay. I'm trying to get close to the camera here, not so Judy can hear me better, but so that you'll feel more comfortable looking in the direction of the camera. I know for the people that watching at home, it's if people are talking off into the distance, it's sometimes. So who are we talking to here? Starting ladies first here.
Okay.
Your name?
Janet Duprey,
And title?
Director of Operations.
For North Country Honor Flight, and?
Yes.
Barry Finnegan, Executive Director.
For North Country Honor Flight. Honor Flight, North Country version, has been around since?
2013.
This is the 10th year then.
10th year of flying, correct.
Wow.
Hard to believe.
And how many flights?
We have sent 35 flights, 525 veterans, I believe, give or take 1 or 2.
Now, before we get too far along here, I have to point out something, that even though you're the executive director here, Barry, as the person to your right, my left here, since she's the Irish Person of the Year, kind of tried to take over.
Absolutely,
No?
absolutely.
Absolutely, yes.
That puts her way up here.
Yeah, you can put 2 Irish people together, it can be a dangerous thing.
Yeah.
You really are Irish, and she's a wannabe.
No, my grandmother was born in Ireland on St. Patrick's Day, so.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Don't get much more Irish than that, eh? No, we were very proud of that, as having Janet as a huge part of North Country Honor Flight, and to come in as Irishman of the Year, just a great thrill for all of us as well. So we're proud of her.
For those who don't know what that's all about, the North Country Chamber of Commerce, since the late 50s, I believe, has honored a deserving citizen as the Irish Person of the Year. It used to be Irishman of the Year,
Yeah.
but then it had to become Irish Person.
My granddaughters thought that was a nicer title.
So this year's recipient was Janet Duprey, and were they able to surprise you, or?
They absolutely did surprise me. I didn't see it coming. My kids kept it a secret from January till March 17th. So, and I was fortunate enough to have my son and his wife, and my daughter and her husband, and their 2 daughters. So, and Barry was there with me.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. And I was surprised as she was. They didn't tell me either.
They told you it was going to be you, so. It's like that old Mary Tyler Moore show where Ted Baxter thought you get the award, he stands up.
Yeah, wrong person.
But anyway, first flight this year, you're going to have how many flights?
We have got 4 flight days, 8 flights.
8 flights.
So each flight day we've got set is going to have 2 planes going down. 30 passenger aircraft. May 14th is our first 2 flights, and then June 18th, and then September 3rd and October 1st. 2 planes on each day. That should give us 120 veterans out of here and off of that waiting list, which, like I say, it's driving us crazy. That's just way too many. If we pull this off, it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of logistics and a lot of people involved, all doing their part. But we'll pull it off as we always do. But,
Well, you say 15 veterans, you said 30 passengers. Usually there's more than just the recipient and their honor guard person. But so is there room for other people?
Not anymore. No,
No, so-
not right now.
So the flight director
someday.
has to become a guide for somebody?
Yeah, that's what you hope for. And we're looking out with a lot of different ways where that does happen. We do have room for our flight leader, and hopefully one of the guardians ends up being a medical, and if not, we make arrangements for that. But we're trying to keep it as tight as we can. And unfortunately, that's part of what we lost, is we don't have room to take anybody else at this time. I would say that's probably gonna go for this year, and then next year we might be able to loosen up a little bit and not be so crucial as to getting every single available veteran on that plane. Maybe get back to 4 flights per year, and be a little bit easier to send somebody that they need to go. Especially when you start talking sponsors, you know, when somebody sponsors a flight for $12,000, part of the deal is that sponsor gets to go on that flight. Seeing how they're paying for the whole flight, that was the arrangement before, and we hope to get back to that, because with our charter flights, of course, everything is more expensive. The way the fuel prices have been, they're even more expensive than that. So we're getting double hit with a bunch of whammies here that we'll be okay. We're going to get by. The people in North Country always make sure of that. But it's going to be tighter than it's been in a long time.
So have you tied in your costs for September and October? Have they given you a sure price? With
No.
the fuel? No.
No, they
So-
won't do that. They average it, right now they're averaging it at $5 a gallon for AV fuel, which is hopefully what we're gonna be at for these 2 flights in May and June. But who knows in the fall. I doubt they'll be lower.
We can hope.
Let's hope, but
As we drove here, looked at the gas prices, they've jumped within the last couple of days. I guess they're blaming it on the summer fuel that they switched to. So I don't know, but yeah, it's
Who
a
does,
scary
right?
situation. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So these flights just automatically happen. We show up on those days, and
Snap of a finger.
you know, outside of a little ceremony and listening to Tom Halleck and a few other people, off we go. Right? So-
Yeah, a couple phone calls and all of a sudden plane shows up. I don't know where they come from. But let me start you at the beginning, and I'll explain to you just what it takes to get a person on this list.
Now, let's talk about keep that thought, but let's talk about, we always assume that everybody knows what the honor flight's all about,
True.
but there's always somebody tuning in doesn't know. So for those people, let's let Janet tell us what the honor flight is.
There you go.
And then you can fill us in on that thought that you had. Keep that thought in there,
Okay.
right in there.
I'll try.
Maybe
Doesn't usually
you're
work.
switching this the wrong way. You know, I guess from my perspective as director of operations, it's a wonderful position. It's a lot of time. I'm not going to put it, but we have about 100. Generally, stick with about 160 people on our waiting list.
Veterans.
Veterans.
Now, it started off World War II veterans. This was the whole idea
That's
of the
right.
honor flight. Now, unfortunately, we waited a little too long, I think, so we lost a whole lot of people that could have gone that just weren't able to make it.
Absolutely.
And now we're at a point where it's very, very difficult to find
We had one last year, Steve
a
Ghetto.
World War II
World
veteran.
War
So
II, but
then
we
moved into
don't have
Korea,
any so far right now.
Moved into
We have-
Korea, but Korea was pretty close to that age group.
Yep.
And then you got the Vietnam and
Yeah.
Afghanistan and all the other stuff. So go ahead.
Most of our veterans are Vietnam veterans now. The huge majority are Vietnam veterans that we're taking down. Sometimes we have our entire flight are Vietnam veterans, and you know they're not young anymore either. Calvin, that's our era. So
What'd you say, old timer?
But I make a habit of calling every single veteran at least once a year, twice a year if I have the time. And this year has been the most difficult year, and I've enjoyed it as much. It's great to have the conversations with them. There are always some people I can't reach, and I guess that's something I'd like to get out at this point. Their phone numbers have been disconnected, they're out of service, probably they've switched whether they've moved, but I can't reach them. And I keep them on the list, hoping that they'll call someday and say, how come I'm not hearing from anybody? In fact, I had one of those last week. And we also, I leave messages and people don't always call back. And I really find I don't have the time when we're getting ready for the flights to go back and pick those up. But this year we found, for the first time, that several people that I had called during the last 2 years were doing good. And this year, really critical, serious illnesses. A lot of them are I know a lot of people, and a lot of them were my friends. And it's been tough, and so we're moving as quickly as we can. I had a list I made over 80, so that I would be concentrating also on our veterans who are over the age of 80. Some of them are pretty darn healthy, but most of them aren't. And also look at these veterans who have given so much, who all of a sudden in the last year, I know some of it's been Agent Orange, some of it is just, a lot of different cancers, a lot of different diseases, and they're excited about going, and certainly it's been again, I love talking with them. I usually circle back a couple of times, but it's been a wake-up call this year more than ever. One of the things, and I want to kind of on a good note, for the first time on these early flights, we have 5 guardians who were all sons of veterans. State of Washington, their guy flying in, Texas, Chicago, Florida, and Canada to come in and go on honor flight with their dads. And that's just so heartwarming. And you just kind of feel the excitement in their voices. And one of them who called me and said, any chance I can come up and go with my dad? He said, you haven't seen him in 3 years. And so I think that's been part of it. I guess if there's a good thing that came out of the downtime was that families are now reconnecting more. But we've never had these out of state, and so it's just been neat. It's been a good experience this year to kind of go through this, and we've had some ups and downs, but basically I think we've got really good flight leaders, and for the May and June flights we're very pleased, and they're great to work with. They're making it a lot easier for me, and I like that.
Yeah, well, I know there's a fellow flew up from Texas to be with his father. His father worked at Wyeth. Do you remember?
Yes.
Ricky.
Yeah. His son.
The great RJ.
Yeah. And so that was great.
Yep, and surprised them too.
Yeah.
That's all, and actually it worked.
Yeah.
No, it's great to see when the families get together, and we still get a lot of people that want to meet us down in Washington also.
Oh yeah.
Of course, our restriction is the plane with the seats so limited, but our bus holds 26 more people than our plane does. So anybody that can get to DC as far as a family member or a friend.
But you have to know ahead of time, because you
Right.
can't
No,
have
it just-
50 people show up to fill
No.
up 26 seats.
No, because we've got actually active duty personnel that will join us and help push for the day and help, if nothing else, get the wheelchairs in and out of the bus. And we gotta know how many of them to tell that there's space left. So we need those guys, but we love to see the family come in also. I think we've got a couple coming in this time, and I know for the June flight, we've got 2 people flying in from Florida. And one of our volunteers coming in from Minnesota. Her father flew about 4 years ago, and she's been talking about it ever since, and then finally this year it worked out where she can make it up for the June flight, just to come help for the day.
Just to help.
That's it.
Now, when I go to the doctors now, they tell me 3 things, and 5 minutes later, I'm supposed to remember what those 3 things are. So, Barry, what were you going to talk about? Hope your doctor is watching. Man.
Yeah. No, I think the starting with the personnel list is the hardest thing to do. It's probably the part that gets overlooked the most because not too many people get involved in it, which you can't have. I mean, if you got, 10 different people all coming in with names and numbers on who's going to be on a flight.
Instead of a horse, you get a camel.
There you go. So, Janet is in charge of that, but like she said, she starts with background phone calls just to let them know we have their application on file and that someone will be getting in touch with them. And all these conversations that happen end up, she's very good about writing it down, little notes on what concerns us, because there is a lot of these people's lives that does factor into their flight day.
Yeah, you're going to have a priority list, and this is how you would get that.
Exactly. And Janet just so good at it and so willing to call and call back again, that when it comes time to pick out 15 veterans for the first flight,
14.
she's basically got it all
Is
done.
it 14 or 15?
14.
So we're not going to get to 120 then.
Well, some of our guardians are veterans also, so we count them in.
Okay.
Yeah. That's where we hope that the guardian and the medical and everything is already a veteran, and sometimes it might work out, might not. But
Yeah.
I like round numbers too.
I start making the phone calls in January and February.
Well, yeah, and that's not any too early because
No, it's not. It's really not.
May comes quick,
Yeah.
and sometimes you get somebody that goes on a May flight that by the time the October flight comes, they're not with us anymore.
Exactly.
We've been there and done that, and that's what I'm trying to avoid. And again, for 2 Irish people, Barry and I really do work very well together. And I do make the notes. Particularly anybody who's, we have people who right now are going through chemotherapy, who we will get on our flights, to kind of make sure when their treatments are and when they can go. So that's kind of some of the juggling that I do. But once I get all the notes made for pretty much 160 people.
That's what's on your list right now?
Yeah, that's what's on the list right now. Again, give or take a couple, but and then Barry and I sit here and we pull the applications and we go through them, and so far we've been pretty good about agreeing on who should go.
It's tough though, because it's a
hard. It's
balancing
the
act
hardest
between
thing to do.
Well, yeah.
who's, the oldest is easiest, that's a number, the 95-year-old needs to go.
Yeah, right.
Okay. The 84-year-old with 10 other people that all are under cancer treatments right now. Okay, which way are we gonna go here? And there's a lot of discussion on, even though he's 84, he might be doing pretty well, and a lot of them are. 1 month won't make a huge difference to him. And
You
it's
hope.
little, yeah.
Yeah.
You never know for sure.
No.
Lately, it seems like it's the ones we don't think of as sick are the ones that are passing away. So, no, it's not always foreseen ending for what we've got to do. But yeah, there's a lot of tough decisions that need to be made. The sicknesses are hard to gauge. You can tell some things by the medications, but not a lot. So yeah, it's not easy.
Talking with them is the thing, and a lot of them will say, "No, I'm doing okay,"
Well, yeah, sure.
and just I've done it enough now that I can usually get them to, well, what's okay,
Yeah, right.
Right.
and they'll usually open up, and then that's where we go from there. But they're tough decisions because there's still a lot on that list that
Every one of them
I
is
would
deserving.
like to have
Absolutely.
them being able to go right now.
Yeah,
The temptation for ordering a 747 and sending out 180 veterans is great. But
I'm not doing the bios that much.
that's where we lose our identity.
Yeah.
We're known for certain things, and even in the honor flight world, with National. We're known for our small numbers and our personal touch, and we can do a lot of things that the larger hubs don't. You know, when you send 2 plane loads of 180 veterans every year, you're limited on what you can do with those. You know,
Yeah.
even the send-off ceremony. You get everybody in a big room, you have a
Yeah.
general
Yeah.
thing, but there's nothing personal about it, where our personal touch that we give to each and every veteran is just something that doesn't happen anywhere. Well, I won't say anywhere else, but very few.
Now let's talk about picking your dates, because Judy and I went a couple of years ago and recorded what we saw there, and we met some other honor flights that were in town too. But obviously, you can't have every honor flight showing up on the same date, because
And that's why there is a National
So-
Honor Flight Registry.
so you got to fit yourselves in to the overall schedule.
Yes, yep. We usually do our flights, we're scheduled pretty much, probably some of the firsts out of anybody in National. And then the list builds from there. They'll keep a list, and like say we just picked a flight for June right now, they notify us that on that day there's 12 honor flights that are already gonna be there. You might wanna look at another date. Ours are pretty much spaced out where we can make everything fall into place with enough time between the flights to make it work best for us. And we're one of the first, because we usually have these booked by December. And we like to get it done early, and that way we're on the list and everybody else can already see that we're coming. The biggest problem is Arlington Cemetery. We schedule a time to see the changing of the guard up at the tomb of the unknown soldier, and that's the only really set time that we have through the whole day outside of the aircraft. We've got to be there at 12:30 or be there at 1 o'clock, and that's what sets the tone for the whole day. We schedule around that. So if we get our time at Arlington that we like, then everything else flows pretty smoothly, and if not, we have to make some adjustments. Usually we get the time that we want right off the bat because we are earlier. This year we've got 2 flights that were 1 hour later, which we're going to stop at the World War II for an hour and then go up. So, you know, and then we'll stop at Iwo Jima and then back down to the Korean and the Vietnam Wall afterwards. So little adjustments, but it works best for us. But yeah, you never know how many flights are going to be there that day unless you keep an eye on the schedule. And of course, some weekends in Washington are a little bit hectic. We learned that the hard way. We were down there once, some kind of rally in front of the Lincoln Monument, and it wasn't the rally that bothered us. They had speakers set up blasting all the way down the mall, including into the Vietnam Memorial and into the Korean War Memorial.
Just encroaching on people that want to be there
Yeah.
for another purpose.
Yeah, I don't even know what they were talking about, but it wasn't right. Some of these guys have spent their lifetime waiting to go see that Vietnam Wall, especially. And when they get there and somebody's screaming in their ear.
Yeah, no matter how righteous your cause may be, you don't need to encroach on somebody else and somebody else's
So
memories.
disrespectful.
No, so we've kind of taken to keep an eye out for things like that. Hopefully we're not gonna run into it.
Now you talk about the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. One of these honor flights with 180 people couldn't possibly fit there to enjoy that. There isn't enough room around that where the ceremony is taking place for.
They make it work. What there isn't room for is anybody else. But what they do is they line, see, that's where ours, we know where we're gonna be almost every time. It's the same place. And we get the best spot in the house. And they get to see more than most people do. Those 180 will end up lining up on the steps, which is something we avoid to the max as well. I mean,
Sure.
especially when you're all in wheelchairs. But they'll use different parts of the amphitheater that we usually don't have to worry about. So yeah, there's a lot of situations that we're very fortunate. Not to mention they're come flying in on 6 or 8 buses and yeah.
Yeah. Now, you said the wheelchairs. Now, no matter how mobile the person is, your rule is they got to be wheeled around, right?
And that's not so easy
When
sometimes.
somebody says, "Hey,
You get a lot of people,
I
I'm
walk
not-
5 miles every day here, and you want me
Yeah.
to get in?"
Oh,
Yep, exactly.
I've had a few of those shots.
Yeah. I am not getting in a wheelchair.
And it is mandatory at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. That's the Arlington.
They never pointed to you, Janet, and said,
Oh.
"You get in a wheelchair, and I'll push you."
I have somebody who's a really good friend who said to me, "There's no way I'm getting in a wheelchair. I walk 4 miles a day." And I said to him, "Well, guess what?" And so I mentioned the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. And I always say to the Guardians, and I do emails to the Guardians ahead of time. In fact, I did the first one this morning, and I'll do another 2 or 3 between now and May 14th. I really, at least, particularly encourage them to, even if their veteran says, "No, I'm great, I can walk," that they take the wheelchair with them. They can just fold it up and push it. But the same guy who said he walked 4 miles every day, when we got to the Air Force Memorial, he was in the wheelchair, and I kind of smiled at him, and I said, "How's your day going?" He said, "Man, am I glad you told me to sit in this wheelchair." So, it's a long day. I come back exhausted. Of course, again, we're aging a little here, Calvin, but
She is older
it's-
than me, though.
and I have no doubt. And but it's important that, because we don't want, the safety of the veterans is key, and that's what I say to the Guardians. Even if they argue with you, and we had one on our flight last year. There was no way he was getting in a wheelchair, but and his son said to me, "I'm afraid he's going to just keel over because he's just." So I said to him, "Hey, let me tell you where you're going right now. You're going to sit in that chair." and it again, and I said to him, "Listen, if you fall, if you're not safe, you ruin the day for everybody. So
Yeah.
let's just get it done right." And we were at the wall at the time, and that's a long,
Oh yeah.
emotional walk down through. And in fact, I think about the time that I was with him, we were my brother-in-law's name, and so I think that's kind of what he didn't want to deal with me right then. So, but it's a and our Guardians are always great, and they step up and help, but the wheelchair issue can get a little testy sometimes.
Now you mentioned the wall, and I have to think back to last year at VFW in Champlain,
was
1418, with that traveling wall, and you'd go by there in the evening when it's dark out, and there'd be people out there
Yep.
looking for names, and
We have some veterans going on our flight in May and again in June, who said to me they were there.
at
I
1418.
spoke to a couple of them up there
Mhm.
at that day that my husband and I went, and that's why they really, really want to go now and see the one in D.C. and see the other memorials. One of them said to me he thought he was going to take his name off the list until he saw the wall in Champlain. So it's certainly something and I don't care how many times I go. I've been so many times, and I'm with Honor Flight and before, and
Yeah, because you've got a family member
I
who's
have
on
a
that
family
wall.
member there, and that makes it special.
Yeah.
And you never know what you're gonna see down there. The thing that gets me every time is to see some of the elder Vietnamese people that are down there thanking our soldiers as they come through that memorial. And you see it in the veterans' eyes that they cannot believe that. It just totally catches them off guard that someone would come from that far away to thank them for what they did in that country. So for a lot of those guys, that's the first time they've ever realized they might have done something good. And very, very touching.
My most recent disappointment right now is we just had a veteran who called me and pulled out of the flight and said that he's decided he couldn't handle it at the wall and that he would get too emotional. And I said to everybody, nobody goes to the wall that doesn't get emotional, but I couldn't talk him into it. So
Yeah, well, you know, you hope you didn't take them off the list entirely. And
Oh,
might
no.
move them
He
down
said,
a few
he
places.
said,
and-
no, we don't move anybody down. We leave them right where they signed up. I keep the,
Yeah, but I mean,
I keep the list by the date that they signed up, and we just kind of, they stay in the same spot, but it's just sort of a different year, different time. But no, and he said, take me right off the list, and I said, nah, all right, yeah, okay.
sure, I will. Yeah.
No, his name's still on there, and will stay on there. You always hope that people will change, and a few more people come back and talk to him and say how good it was, and
Yeah. Yeah. Was he able to go up? Did you know if he went up to Champlain last year and saw that at the VFW? Or?
I don't know. I don't think so. He's not from up that way,
Oh,
so
okay.
I don't think
Yeah,
so.
probably. People from all over the area were.
Yeah, I know
going,
they were, and I don't
Yeah.
mean it that way, but
Yeah, yeah.
he didn't indicate that he had been there. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people didn't even know about it. That,
Yeah.
as much as we
Right.
spread the word. Now we talk about your area. How big an area do you cover?
Probably one of the biggest in the country.
bigger than
You know,
our congressional district.
Oh yeah,
I say that from talking with other directors around the country, and I mean, a Stars and Stripes honor flight takes care of Milwaukee, basically. We go from, we've had them south of Albany, Utica, over to, we've taken one from
Ogdensburg.
Syracuse, up 81 to Ogdensburg, Potsdam, Malone, Messina,
Vermont.
everywhere.
Vermont.
Vermont doesn't have their own honor flight. We try to take a couple of those on each flight. Mainly the older, either World War II or Korean guys. But yeah, so you take a distance, and we're one of the bigger hubs in the country. Fortunately, we've got a team that doesn't seem to be bothered by that. Our flight leaders have been unbelievably gracious in the fact that we've got one actually lives on the border of Vermont and New Hampshire, and Mike and Lori went down to visit him first. Well, let's
veterans.
start on the furthest out, and we'll work our way back towards home. So yeah.
And it's his son who's coming in from Seattle, Washington.
Oh wow.
So yeah, we've got a large area. The other thing that is very nice for us is we bring our veterans in on Friday from the distance. Anybody, we set it for like 50 miles or an hour. If they're more than that away, we bring them in on Friday, and they can stay at the hotel here at the Best Western, who is awfully good to us. They take great care of us, and we also have our Friday night dinner there. So it's nice to have everybody in the same place. The Friday night is a little get together so everybody can meet and greet, and we give any information that needs to be handed out, and then ask if anybody's got any questions or any concerns, and just trying to clear the air before the big morning on Saturday. So it works out well. And those biker groups, they just love to go pick them up on Fridays. We've had them as many as 4 different directions, and each of those 4 groups are well represented by a large number of bikes that are more than happy to go pick these guys up on a Friday and bring them back to Plattsburgh.
The parking lot at the Best Western is filled with motorcycles.
It's become an event on its own. It's really it's taken on a life of its own, and people love it. So yeah, the more the merrier. This year we get to go all the way to New Hampshire to pick somebody up and bring them back, and we're going to stop in 2 other towns on the way home and pick more up, and finally make it back to Plattsburgh. And we got everybody involved along the way. Right now the New Hampshire State Police are involved. They're going to hand us off to the Vermont State Police, and then the Vermont State Police are going to hand us off to the New York State Police at the ferry.
That's happened to you before, but we won't get into that.
Yeah. No, last year we actually had the Vermont State Police. We got to the ferry dock, and we said to them, we're going over to the hotel to get all the veterans together and have a quick dinner. You're more than welcome to come to the dinner. Put in gear, drove on the boat. So they love to help us out as much as anybody, and of course getting that kind of involvement makes it all the more special for the veteran,
Of course.
which it's all about.
And I think it's only fair to say that Bob Smith with Best Western has been just great.
Unbelievable.
He and Julie, who is his right hand assistant, they have just been wonderful with us to book the rooms and make sure that that every veteran is taken care of. And we have some who are certainly handicapped, need some special services, need some special things, and they never even blink. So we're very fortunate.
Yeah,
The man who Smithfield Boulevard is named after.
That's
there you
correct.
go.
Well, some of us knew his dad.
No, and we can go. Sometimes you start out, you know how many rooms you're probably going to need, how many veterans live out of town, and then
All of a sudden,
all of a sudden things change, and you go from 5 to 10 rooms that you need, and it's like it's always been handled with such ease that we're very fortunate. Yeah, but sometimes we do pick which veterans are coming in by where they're located. I mean, you can only have those flight leaders go so many different directions, an hour and a half, 2
Oh, yeah.
hours in each direction. So you try to go easy on it, and then the next flight end up with 30 veterans all from Plattsburgh. So we better split this up a little
it's like
bit.
it helps in your priority list when
Yeah.
you're planning.
Yeah.
on it.
And last year was certainly an anomaly. I
Yeah.
mean, Larry Aber and I did, 40-some interviews in 3 weeks. And we were pinging all over the place. Just because we were almost picking up those on the list as we were moving around. And we do still talk. And we took a little respite from each other. But we're back speaking to each other again. But and it was fun. But and so I really concentrated more this year on, if we have one person in Malone, we also have somebody in North Bangor. We also have a couple of them in Owl's Head. Let's kind of get those all on that same flight. And we're trying to do the same thing with some of the other areas. Certainly I've held off on some of them for September because we've got 4 people out in Brazier Falls.
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody's going to go to Brazier Falls, let's bring them all in.
One
So,
trip,
uh,
yeah.
Yeah.
I've gotten, I think we keep trying to improve every year.
You learn
And-
from what you've done and
And
what
I
works,
think
what
that's
doesn't.
what probably my biggest improvement this year is to really not just look at, and so we're sometimes taking somebody who is a little younger, early 70s,
Kids,
and pretty healthy, but
because of
because of the location,
Yeah.
and so,
that's what they say about business, location,
Yep.
so.
There you go.
yep.
So same thing here,
Yep.
if you got some deserving person that you need to pick up and they're right next to them,
And they're all deserving, so
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
never any,
why,
you
I
know.
didn't mean that
No,
way,
but I
yeah.
mean, we do have people who will say,
High
well,
priority.
I've been on the list since, and I
Yeah.
should be going, and
I think
we just do the best we can.
we've got some from 2018 on this one.
Wow, been waiting a while.
2017
Yeah.
on this one.
So
Like
that's
the-
what this year is going to clear up. It'll clear up those
Yeah,
people
the
from
old-
17, 18, 19.
No, we
20.
won't get rid of 19. The majority right now of on our list are from 2019.
So you haven't added a lot in the last several years then,
Well, we've added, but they've been people that.
because you're getting rid of 120 of 160, you said?
It seems like the more
Well, no,
I shouldn't
it
say
doesn't-
getting rid of.
It
but-
doesn't
Right.
work that way though.
Well, yeah,
That's a nice
yeah.
thought, but it doesn't work that way because we get them once we start the first flight.
You-
The
then-
applications
then,
start coming in, but the 2020 and the 2021 folks who've signed up, we find that most of them are Korean.
so
They're
they're
88, 89. We just
So
had a
they're-
90-year-old sign up. Just got his application right here.
So he's got to move up.
So
on
they
that
move
list.
up.
yeah.
They
So
jump the
basically
list,
the
and
waiting
that's
list doesn't move at that point.
and that's what I explained to the people who say, "Well, I've been signed up since
Yeah.
January of 2019." Well, I just heard from a 90-year-old who
Yeah.
never wanted to go before and now wants to. So, what do you think?
Are you enjoying your health?
Why would a youngster like you want?
but a lot of them that sign up at this late time are people that they're on the May and June flights, and they should be. So we really that's where it becomes difficult to
Oh, yeah, you,
to dig
Yeah,
into
like you
some
said,
of the ones who've been
they're
on
all
for a while.
deserving, it's just,
Yeah.
how do you,
May's good, you know, cause you got June right behind it. June, you try to be a little more careful because September's a long ways off.
yeah,
September's okay because you got October right behind it. October's the one that we're deathly afraid of. That's the one we gotta get it right. And anybody that needs to go should be on that flight. And, that's where it gets tough. You know, if anybody's been waiting a couple of years and then all of a sudden the 86-year-old signs up and goes right away, but you gotta do that.
Yeah.
That's, you're playing the odds.
yeah.
You don't wanna ever disappoint anybody, but sometimes you have to.
And that's where getting into some of those who'd been signed up for a while with their illnesses this year that just blew up on them. Then again, you put them right in that same category with the 90-year-old.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, we might
because
have
they've
had
got-
somebody that's been there since 2018, was in good health, but now all of a sudden that's changed, so you've gotta stay in contact with them, so you know that they should be moved up even further on that list.
Yep.
Now, you mentioned Larry Ebert. Now, did he sing his entire repertoire while driving around in the car with you?
He had the radio going. Every now and then he'd sing along with it. Yeah, we really had some good times. It was.
You don't have to worry about radio reception if you got Larry
No,
in
you
the car.
don't.
No.
You do not. You do not.
He can entertain you all by
So,
himself.
We were entertaining.
And he was a great flight leader, my goodness.
Oh, he was
You
amazing.
talk
If-
about
if-
attention to detail.
Oh, yeah.
If we could
When you
clone
get
him.
that, what is it, drill sergeant?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yep. He's the guy who went in, bounced the corner on the bed, and told him there's no leave if you didn't pass that test. I can picture him.
Yeah. Yeah. We did a lot of traveling. We put in a lot of miles. He put in a lot of miles. I just rode.
Now, you mentioned the motorcyclists too, and I have to think back to that first honor flight that actually happened in Albany. They gathered here, we hopped on a bus, went down
5
to
o'clock in the
Albany.
morning.
It was not as cold as today, but it was pretty darn close to it. And those motorcyclists went all the way through the Adirondacks from here down to Albany, and I just cannot imagine riding a bike that distance in that kind of weather, but they did. You can't say enough about what the motorcyclists have meant to this honor flight.
Unbelievable.
And
Unbelievable.
it's such a thrill. I mean, when they pick up these veterans at their homes and they escort them, I mean, law enforcement and then all these motorcycles and certainly the group that we have. Well, what was the October? You would know the year. I don't, where it was so cold. And they all.
October 13th, 2015.
Yeah.
Not that it sticks in your mind.
Yeah.
No. Oh my
It,
gosh, it was cold.
And I mean, they showed up and their hands they were, almost had to pry them off the bar.
Yeah. No, the veterans were freezing and the bikers were even worse. And, you know, you can only dress so much for that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's still going to get to you.
Well, yeah, and now you've gotten to a point, you did have some ceremonies inside, but now your group is so much because you're doing double flight that you can't bring the veterans inside.
Even the spectators, we didn't have room for the last few years.
Yeah. So you
Which
have-
is a great problem to have. It's
Yeah,
a problem.
except if
Great
it
thing to
gets
have. Yeah.
so darn cold.
Yeah.
Now, people might be asking, well, why June and then to September? Because of the opposite problem.
Right?
Yes.
The heat and humidity down in Washington, D.C. in the summer months. So you're trying to avoid that and still trying to get good enough weather so that...
And that's part of a bylaw from National Honor Flight, that they don't want you flying in July and August. That's for good reason. Last year we went on August 28th, which is kind of pushing it, but we were out of options. It was either that or don't go. And that's when the aircraft were available, so we had to quickly throw that whole thing together, and it was hot. Not overbearing, but hot. And you're at the mercy of weather, like up here. You know, we've had mornings in October that were 65 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had that one that was 28 degrees, I believe, if I remember right. Boy, it was cold.
I think I must have blocked that from my... I do remember shivering out there, but...
Those little heaters in the tent we can get now, we're prepared for it in case, but they don't do a whole lot. But yeah, that was a rough one.
Yeah.
And the same down there, you know, you might get a day. I remember September 24th, and I think it was like 2018. We were down there, and Levi Oaks was down there that
Yes.
day.
The cold tucker.
Yep, and it was about 102 degrees, and we were just searching for shade. Luckily, our crew does a great job with the water on the bus and on the plane and everywhere in between. So plenty of water to stay hydrated. Go see her Memorial. Get to the shower. Sorry about that.
We can pause it right now. All right. So whoever that was, Barry didn't want to talk to you. So, so if you call them at 10 of 11.
So yeah, we were running for shade, and the day they had a great day. All the veterans had a wonderful day as always, but it did kind of slow things down, and it puts concern on our staff. You know, you're
Well, sure.
keeping a little closer
Extra
eye on
pressure.
those veterans, especially. You know, I think Levi was like 97 at
He
the
was,
time.
he was,
Oh, yeah.
he was no spring
And,
chicken.
So yeah, we kept a close eye on the veterans, and it was a great day. But something you try to avoid. So we understand why National doesn't want us down there in July and August.
Yeah. Well, his name is on the corner of your bus, Gordy Little. But Gordy Little and I had such a great time when we went up to Akwesasne area there in Fort Covington area, and they had that big ceremony honoring the cold talkers, and Levi was
Yeah.
there, and then to be here when he took off on his flight. It
I'm
was
sure
just-
we will always think of Gordy every time we're out there. It just doesn't seem right. And I enjoy seeing you, but just not having him standing there next to you just doesn't seem right. So, but then again, I think that we'd be remiss if we didn't say you attend every
Oh my
single
gosh.
ceremony.
So far,
And what you do to get the word out and let
And
people
Judy's-
know is
Judy's been with me ever since Gordy's been gone. so-
phenomenal. And
I guess he's
Yeah.
gonna wait till I retire before he tells me how he gets from here to here to here to here.
yeah,
You know, I'll pull out of here. I pull out probably quick as anybody to get ahead of the bus and the parade people to get over to the
Hey, it's
airport.
a challenge sometimes.
And you're always over here in the corner already. I said, how the heck? Yet when I go back and watch the video part from the send-off ceremony, it's not like you left early. You got the whole thing, the last veteran getting on the bus. But yeah, and I think I've told you before, we used your productions for a
Oh,
lot
yes.
of background information and a lot of information that people ask about a certain flight. And always a great source, always a great reference that I can go back and find answers to questions that I wouldn't normally be able to find the answer to.
one of our veterans out of Vermont last year, he and his wife were so impressed. I told them how to find it. And they live in a senior housing in Montpelier, and actually invited the governor and others to come and watch the video.
Oh, yeah.
And about how impressed they were. So that's kind of neat. And we look at our other volunteers. I mean, they're out there.
Oh yeah.
I struggle to get here at 6, and I'm determined now I will, because he's always telling me if it's 5 after 6. So I'm here, but they're here so much earlier, 4:30, 5 o'clock, starting to set things up, and again, it's the same group that does it all the time, and every now and then we'll get somebody new we get to come in, but it's
Oh yeah. I'll talk to people that. Oh yeah, I've been here since 4. You know.
yeah.
I'll generally probably 4 to 4:30 is
Yep.
probably when I'm gonna get here. And I'll remember the first couple
Not me.
times, get there at 4 o'clock, and all of a sudden, I come down here first, open up the office and start bringing the flags and whatnot out. And all of a sudden, I'll hear the clang, clang, clang. Look up and there's Greg Lee out in the back of his truck, unloading all the chairs, getting everything set up inside the tent. No, we've got 4 or 5 people like that. They'll be here bright and early, and it
Now
always
Larry
gets done.
Larry Aber is one of them.
Larry pulls in, starts setting up that PA system and getting all the entertainment lined up, ready to go. Yeah, some great volunteers that behind the scenes, and sometimes you don't ever hear about them or see them, but there's a lot of work gets done to get this thing off the ground.
And I think you've got a meeting tonight, a committee
Yes.
meeting tonight, right?
Yeah.
Yep,
And the northern
Yep.
tier, the honor guard comes down every single time.
Yeah,
and it's,
Yeah, Post 912
Yeah.
has been here every time, and
and I tell Bob all
we
the
take them
time.
off every now and then to have them go as veterans.
yeah,
so,
yeah, there are a couple of,
then they got to fill somebody else in. But we've got a few more that have got to. We're hoping to get out this year. So
You know, there's so many people involved that know what to do and where to go and how to be there, but generally a courtesy phone call just to say, hey, you still good? You still gonna be here? And 912 is not on that list. They're just gonna be here. We know that.
yeah.
They know that. No need to make a phone call and remind them to be here. They're gonna,
you don't want to think they're not wanted, so you gotta at least touch base with them.
they already know that. Nope. Nope. Bob and I laugh about that all the time.
Yeah, yeah. He's mentioned so many people that just literally work in the dark because they're out here,
Absolutely.
and they don't get up and take a bow at any time. That they're unknown, but it wouldn't happen without all these people and all the people
Absolutely.
throughout the year who volunteer and help you to
Yep.
raise funds and so on.
There's a lot of people out there that really, people ask, what is honor flight? It's like, it's anybody that's ever stood there and clapped as veterans loaded the bus. Anybody that's ever mailed in a donation, checked out the Facebook page and made a donation. Anybody that's ever been involved. That's a large number of the people in North Country that have actually done something one way or another to support us. We're very fortunate.
Yeah, if you're looking for the Facebook page, it's the new North Country Honor Flight page,
Correct.
and all the information you need you can find on there.
Yep.
But if people want to just send a donation in without going there, there's an address.
They can go to our website, northcountryhonorflight.org.
Is there a mailing address?
Yep, mailing address, that's preferred.
Do you know what it
way.
is?
P.O. Box 2644, Plattsburgh, New York,
2644. Okay, that's
12901.
26 your age and 44 Janet's age.
That's right. Yeah, right.
It's easy to remember.
And you're right in between.
So 2644.
Yeah.
P.O. Box, Plattsburgh 12901.
01.
Yeah. So easy.
Nope. Makes it easy. The Facebook donations and the website donations are nice, but PayPal does take a small percentage
Yeah,
off the
that's-
top of that.
Yeah, you go by
unfortunately.
PayPal and
Yeah.
that'll be 100. If you have 100, it's probably 90. Whatever.
96, 95, 96.
$4 or $5 you're gonna take out. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
no.
a direct check is even better. But you got a point here. You got 120 hopefully going this year. You got 160 at the moment on your list.
Right.
Could we be at a point next year with 4 flights that you're gonna get everybody out there?
I'm thinking by next year we should have anybody that's been on a waiting list is going to be less than 1 year by the time we get to next year. So whatever we do next year, be it just 4 regular flights of 15 veterans each, of course that's going to get replenished. But at least it'll be 60 new veterans taking the place of the 60 veterans that we've already sent. So that's, then the changeover occurs and nobody's waiting 2, 3, 4. There's a point where people were waiting 5 years to go. That's unacceptable. And we've tried to do everything we could. Tough times. I mean, we switched some airlines around. We're on our 3rd airline now. Who knows what's going to come into Plattsburgh? Chris Craig is doing a great job for us over there at the airport, and he keeps his eyes and ears open. And if there's an alternative with one of these new airlines coming in, it'd be a great time to start working with them. When we had our deal with SkyWest, they were so reasonable, and we were so fortunate to have them, and they worked their schedule out to fit us.
Right.
It was just a godsend because we saved a lot of money, and thank God we did, because right now we need it. So
Yes.
it was a blessing in disguise that we didn't know at the time. As things happen, you just assume it's gonna stay that way, but, no, it doesn't, and, things change.
Yeah, you've had to go to chartered flights instead of just being part of another flight.
Yeah.
The one advantage of the charter flights is we don't have to go through TSA, so we save a lot of time. Particularly for some of the elderly, if they're in a wheelchair, you know, it does save us time.
It's a
and
great system.
It is a really good system.
little
So
more expensive.
we may be having to balance that out at some point.
A little more
but,
expensive, but it's,
Yeah.
yeah.
But we pull over to the FBO, it's called at the airport, the fixed base operator. And we've got our own little hangar that we've been allowed to use. And we pull in there and the veterans get off the bus and go sit down and have a nice breakfast and cup of coffee and enjoy a few minutes of chatting before we get ready to fly. And on that same hangar, the opposite side doors open up, you know, the huge doors swing open, and there's the two aircraft that we're taking for the day sitting there waiting for us. They literally walk from the breakfast table and up the stairs onto the plane.
Get a great photo first. Get a photo of all of them in front of the planes, and that's a neat photo for them to
Yeah.
have. But,
Now, when you get to DC, is it
same.
similar to what it's been in the past, where you had a group visiting?
We've lost that because of going to the hangar.
Yeah.
And we're hoping that maybe more will be able to get there. We're trying to figure out a way to get a little better crowd. Last year there really wasn't any. No, well, first of all, they couldn't get in because of all the regulations, but you missed because in the Dulles airport, you were there.
Yeah.
I mean, they're overwhelming.
Yeah, and these people
But we
showing
don't
up.
go into the
Yeah.
airport when you go to the hangar. Again, the difference is it didn't take us an hour to get through,
Yeah,
and I mean down the hallway and onto the.
but it was kind of special though that
It
people
was,
from
so-
there would think enough to show up,
Yeah.
waiting for that flight, and you know. That
No,
little
it was-
girl who used to
Yeah.
follow
Oh my
alongside with a
gosh.
sign.
Yeah,
We're hoping that all comes back. I mean, we are down away from the main terminal, but they're trying to work it out where they can get some of the people down there anyway. And who knows, you know, as long as they're working on it, anything can happen. But it's the same thing down there. When the planes pull in, the buses are sitting right here. They walk maybe 15 feet and go up the steps to the bus.
So that's handier.
I mean,
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
and quicker. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
again, that going
Yeah.
through Dulles was just
Yeah.
a long.
And we've even considered taking a drive around the Dulles airport to go by the main terminal. And as much as it wouldn't be, you know, walking by them in the wheelchairs in the terminal, we could still drive by the bus and all the people would be on the sidewalk at the terminal. And the little girl could run with us at that point.
She has to be getting a little,
I was going to
little
say.
older.
She was amazing. That was so great when that was going on. She ended up coming with us for the whole day, you know that, right?
Oh no! I
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
know,
Yeah.
Wow.
No, we finally rounded up her name and said, okay, we need to find her parents. And her and her mother spent the whole day with us one time. So yeah, that was great.
Wow. That is great.
But, yeah, we're gonna try to get as much of that back as possible. The good thing, the crowds are back at the World War II Memorial. I saw a video from a group that went in last week, and they're back 100%. So as much as we're gonna miss Bob Dole, we know he won't be there.
No.
Having everybody else back there to welcome our veterans as they get off the bus is a nice touch.
Yeah, that was amazing what Dole would do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sit there all day until every World War II veteran that visited that memorial had his hand shaken. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
One of my favorite photos. I had the opportunity to have the photo with him.
And I'm sure that hung at his home too, with the photo.
Oh, I'm sure, right on his wall.
It would this year because the Irish Person of the Year.
Oh yeah, that would make the difference.
That's right. It's probably in Elizabeth's office now.
Oh yeah.
Elizabeth Dole is actually hosting the May 3rd is our 250,000th veteran that is going to be sent to the World War II Memorial
Wow.
through honor flight. And Elizabeth Dole is hosting the ceremony.
Oh wow.
So should be quite an event. And she's been awfully good to us as well. So apparently she's going to pick up the reins where Bob left off.
That'd be great.
Yeah. About 250,000 veterans have been there through honor flight. That's
Yeah, it's a nice.
kind of
Nice-
puts our
nice
little
round number.
525 down to, puts it in perspective, doesn't it?
But without that 525, they'd have to wait another day.
There you go.
Good thing we're there.
Yeah.
Oh, but let's talk about who is eligible. As we said, it started off as World War II veterans, and
Korean.
as they got harder and harder to find, we went to Korea, now Vietnam, but now veterans.
It's basically open to everybody. Age does prevail, so it'll
Yeah.
still be World War II veteran take
Or health
precedence.
conditions. We had a health condition
Or health
situation last year.
conditions of Iraq, Afghanistan veteran.
It was one of those last year for some
Yeah.
very bad health.
And there's a lot of things that have been left in between. This year is the first time we've ever had the subject of a Lebanon veteran come up. He's insistent he is not a Vietnam veteran, he's not a Cold War veteran, he is a Lebanon veteran. And I don't blame him. That was not a pretty place to be in. And he is going to go as our Lebanon veteran. So, yeah, we got some other parts that we've never even encountered before. But after sending Wesley last year,
And I was going to say, I mean, Wesley died just 3 weeks after the trip.
Yeah.
I mean, a group of us went down for his funeral. Yeah, at 35 years old.
Yeah, it's just
And
and we
I
everybody
actually
knew
have
at
one
the
of
time that his time was extremely limited.
and we knew it. I mean, the interview we had with him was
Heartbreaking.
that one and the one with Ralph McClintock, the guy who spent the year in the Korean prison over in North Korea, from the Pueblo. Those are the two most difficult interviews I've done.
yeah.
And I've hit some tough ones, but those two just, they'll always stay with me.
Yeah, and every veteran is important, but there's just a few that stand out. And like you mentioned, Levi Oakes before, because he's such a code talker that
Yeah.
the Mohawks. We grew up knowing, probably some of us knew about the Navajo code talkers,
That's
and
what
realized that
everybody-
we had them right here in our own backyard with the Mohawks.
Yeah. And they were in Europe. They weren't in the Pacific. I mean, the Navajos were well known for the Pacific work they did,
yeah,
and for the Mohawks to be right there in Europe, and not really a lot of publicity compared to the Navajo. So yeah, we were honored to have him with us, and I don't know how many times that weekend, people are sitting next to him and talking to him, not even realizing who he is.
And again, we assume people know, but code talkers in World War II, these Native Americans would speak in their own native language, and the Germans and the Japanese couldn't break the code, and so it wasn't any hardship for them to
No.
to do it. But it was such a vital importance that they could, relay. They'd have the somebody on the other end that spoke their language, and they could get the information out to our troops.
Yeah.
And so the vital importance that they had.
They say both theaters were crucial to have them transport information back and forth. They just said it changed the whole outlook of things. So yeah, we were fortunate.
Yeah. So
And along with Levi was, Wesley was a very high profile person. That was a national issue with the burn pits, and it's becoming
yeah.
more of a national issue. Hopefully they're on track to take care of these guys before it's too late. Wesley waited 3 years with zero treatment, which
It was
would it have saved
misdiagnosed.
his life?
Yeah.
maybe not, but nice to have that opportunity.
Yeah.
Especially when your VA denies you health care. So, yeah, he was a rather high-profile person, and like I say, when we talked to him, he said he had about 3 months left, he thought, and it turned out being 3 weeks. But the character of that guy, to go through what he was going through and all the plans he had to make, knowing he's not gonna be here in 3 months with a 5-year-old son. And, just unbelievable.
Yeah.
And he could not thank us enough when we got home that day, because he finally got to go see his, one of his buddies that he served with. It's a very long story about, yeah,
Got that yesterday.
oh my God.
That's Wesley's son.
Oh, I don't know if Judy can get it.
One of the veterans over there sent it to me yesterday. His Irish grandmother is here for the month, and his mom.
Oh, we stop with the Irish.
His mom, who is obviously Irish, is going. She and Ronan are going to Ireland in July for the month of July. So, but yeah, he looks just like his dad.
Oh my gosh.
Spitting image of
But
him.
yeah, he was so thankful because he got to go see his, I wanna say lieutenant,
Yes.
down at Arlington Cemetery. And it's a very long story that, anyway, Wesley felt his injury, when he got injured in Afghanistan, his lieutenant is the one that took his spot. So because of his injury, his lieutenant was put in a
lieutenant died.
position and he ended up passing away. So he's carried this guilt with him since that incident. And to get to Arlington to visit him and let go, and I guess he let go. There was only 2 people allowed off the bus. The one that was showing them exactly where the gravestone was, and Wesley, and I guess he let go of some stuff that he'd been holding on to for a very long time. So we were very, very proud to be able to give him that moment, even though we got yelled at for it.
He was very thankful.
Yeah. Arlington Cemetery was reminded us that there are no unscheduled stops to happen for any reason whatsoever. And we just said, okay.
But if it should ever arise again,
We will do the same thing over again if it calls for it.
Honor flight banned from the.
we better wait till the end.
Okay, so we mentioned the contributions, but let's talk about if people want to get on the list or get a family member on the list, or even a person they know. It doesn't have to be a family member. Some people don't have families, but
Absolutely. Nope. North Country Honor Flight is the base for everything. Go right to northcountryhonorflight.org. It's got a place to download the applications, print them out, mail them in to that address, P.O. Box 2644.
26, 44.
And they'll be on the list. And a lot of people don't seem to realize that that's what starts the whole thing. If we don't have a name and a phone number to contact you, it's kind of hard to say you're on the waiting list to go.
And again, what continues to sort of disturb me is I have people from the surrounding areas who will say, well, when can we start signing up Vietnam veterans? and I continue to say, almost all of our veterans on the list are Vietnam veterans. In fact, I think those that are on the waiting list are, because it just seems as if any that we're taking that are World War II or Korean are the ones who are coming in at the last minute, and we bring them in, we
Right.
put them out.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, truly of the 160, the vast majority are Vietnam veterans, and it's just hard to get a lot of them to want to step up and go, and it's such a great experience. We'd love to have every one of them.
I
I'd love to
assume
be able to take every single one of them on a flight.
every VFW and a Legion Post and other veterans groups around are always reminding their membership that.
We hope so. We don't.
Yeah.
We don't get personally involved with that too much. I've been to a few meetings and taken part in their meetings, but yeah, that's a huge part of it. We've asked some of the local VFWs and American Legions to check their rolls, just to make sure there's no World War II vets sitting back, not being aware of it. Maybe they haven't seen them for a little while, but You know, we know they're still out here.
Yeah.
They're there.
Yeah, and DAV and
Yep.
others.
Yep. No, and we'd hate to leave any World War II Korean vet behind because they didn't know about it. That would be a travesty.
Yeah. Oh, let's see. War ended in 45, so we take 18 off 45. We get 27, so it'd be 95 would be the youngest logical person for World War II.
Yep.
And I have two friends, good friends, both Korean War veterans who will not go. I had one signed up and ready to go, and he pulled out on me.
Well, it can be intimidating, I'm
It
sure.
is, and there's a lot of it depends on what part they took in the service, and so many say, well, I don't deserve to go. Everybody deserves to go. If they put on a uniform, they deserve to go.
And a few years back, up at Beekmantown, you had the virtual flight for some people who should go, but didn't want to for whatever reason. You had a virtual tour.
Yep.
And they wore the virtual
Yeah.
glasses there that give them a virtual tour. And they, Judy and I were there to witness that, and they seemed to get a lot out of that.
Right.
Outside of having the experience of actually being there.
Plus, being part of the ceremony that
Yeah.
morning was a huge step. We've leaned more towards that now, including them in the ceremony, and then they just do everything that a veteran is going to do that's flying down to Washington, except get on the plane.
Yeah.
So they're part of something. They've been celebrated. Their bio has been announced, and they're part of that flight. They just don't actually fly. Variety of reasons why they won't. Some just will not get on a plane. Some just don't feel comfortable leaving for that long, which is understandable.
Well, it's a hectic day.
Well,
Yes.
that's why we left it one day. A lot of honor flights do 2 or 3 day trips, and that would eliminate not probably so much now, but especially in the beginning, it would have eliminated half of our veterans. They're not going anywhere for 3 days. And to keep it one day down and back, we can send as many as possible. So
I hope you got a new bus driver, because that guy who drove the bus for us,
Excellent.
we actually got 2 new ones.
he was slicing through places that you couldn't get a Volkswagen through.
I think Roger Cook was the bus driver when you went, and yeah, he was as good as.
He was amazing.
Gina was our original bus driver, and now she's our tour guide.
Yeah.
She comes on every flight with us, and she handed it out to Roger, and Roger just retired.
Did he?
Yeah, so we've got 2 as of last fall. We've got
Yeah,
2 new
last
guys. Same thing.
They were good.
If they got a needle to thread, they're gonna put it to the mat.
And without the police escort. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
they even got the
yeah.
police escort? Oh.
No, they haven't been able to do it. We're hoping maybe before
Well,
this.
I've looked out the windows a few times, and people were waving at our bus driver, but
Yeah.
I won't describe the way.
Yes.
But they really do listen to the police sirens, and they move out of the way. I'll give them, most of them credit.
Most of them.
And if they don't, I don't know if you're that one motorcycle
Yeah.
cop there. He got right off. He put his kickstand down, went up with his billy club and tapped on the guy's window, pointed at him. By the time he got back to his motorcycle, the guy had pulled over. So he got the point. But not too often he had to do that. They really, Washington traffic was good about getting out of the way.
So yeah, it's a fun-filled day. It's non-stop. Yeah. And now that you get through the airport so quick, that gives you a little more time
A little more.
to maneuver through the city.
It does. And, when we changed airports, when we went from BWI over to Dulles, of course, the route changed. So we don't have that American Legion that we used to have the dinners at anymore, which at first seemed like a little bit of a disappointment to us. I mean, the veterans don't know any different. But, and now we realize that we go to the Air Force Memorial.
Yeah.
It's
Have
a
a lunch
beautiful
there.
setup. They got wonderful restrooms, a beautiful spot overlooking the whole city. we have our dinner there, and it just works out great.
Yeah,
And
I
it's
find
a
that so
real
peaceful.
relaxed,
Yeah.
unwinding,
I
exactly.
agree.
yeah.
I agree.
Yeah,
You know that, I mean, all the memorials are nice, but the hubbub of being at the mall and all the, and we get to the Air Force Memorial and just it's simple. It's such a simple one that it just seems peaceful to me, and I could just kind of just sit there and decompress because it took me till then to just kind of breathe. I thought, oh, hey, this is nice fresh air here, but
Then you get back on the bus and
yeah.
yeah,
back into the mayhem. But it's a event-filled day, and it's, as you say, the ceremony starts here at what time?
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock,
Sharp.
sharp.
I learned that from the
I- one
military because
time-
I've never been on time before, so I'm getting good at
With
it.
or without you, they'll start.
One time I can remember we waited for a World War II veteran that was running late. And that was it. It was like a 5 after 7 start.
Oh,
But we don't wait for people other than the veterans.
my friend Bob Venn would like that because Bob always insisted on starting on time.
Yes.
One time they had at Knights of Columbus, they had Stanislaus Przana, the Bishop of Augsburg, to
Yeah.
show up. And he said, this is the time it is, we're starting. He said, you look around, you count 100 people, count 5 minutes, that's 500 minutes you've wasted. So when the bishop showed up, he apologized, and the ceremony was underway.
Good for him.
So, you know, when you got to start time, you start. You know, if somebody,
Yes.
because sometimes somebody is late, and something might happen, they might not show up at all.
Right.
You know, so
Right.
if you keep waiting and waiting, you got
No,
You've
we've
got-
got work to do, and
you've
we've got a
you've
schedule to keep.
Yeah, you've got a
and
time limit. so
Every
and everything.
minute we waste here is a minute less at the airport, and
Yeah.
right now we've got a pretty good setup where we're over at the airport in plenty of time.
Chris is happy.
Chris Craig is happy because back when it was SkyWest and Penn Air, he was not happy because I always got there late. But
And he always came after me. I said, wait a minute, it's him. The guy with the white hat.
yeah,
Well, we used to have ceremonies at the airport.
That's
too,
right,
right,
the
in
first
the morning,
ones
right?
were there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
no, I think
Yep.
we've adapted and adjusted pretty well over the years to everything we have to do.
And look at the difference in the people, the spectators.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you had a
Because
few
can-
family members there at the airport
Yeah. Now
and
you can.
over in that little corner.
Yeah.
And I mean, to look at the hundreds that come now, it's
Yeah.
just great. And it's again, what a tribute to our veterans.
Yes, and everyone is welcome to show up for that send off and also for the
Absolutely.
return. But the send off, next one is May 14th,
May 14th,
June
June
18.
18th,
18th.
September 3rd, October 1st.
We'll check the tape, Judy, and make sure those are the same dates you gave us the
They
first
are.
time.
It took me a while to get it down. For some reason, I kept flipping.
And
But
it's,
yeah, we're good. Those are the exact dates. And I'll tell you the wrinkle we added on this year. One of our combat vet motorcycle association guys said, you know, everybody always talks after the honor flight escorts where we're going to go for breakfast. And you got 20 different groups that all go to breakfast somewhere else. Said, why don't we do something where we can all go to the same place and enjoy each other and tell stories about the morning and the day before? And I said, great idea. Go for it. Let me know what you come up with. And he did. He went over to West Side Ballroom and basically cut a deal with them to have a breakfast buffet starting right after the send-off ceremony, probably about 8:30 to 9 o'clock. And they're going to be open. It's going to be a $10 charge for a breakfast buffet, which is more than reasonable these
Yeah.
days.
Yeah.
And everybody can go from the ceremony into there, talk about what happened that morning and the day before. And I think it's going to be a great situation. If it works out well on the May 14th, they'll do it again in June.
Just got to spread the word to the people there.
Yep.
and we were, and again, you know, anybody who's there is invited to go in the parade. The difference now is that we don't go to the terminal, so they can't go to the hangar. So once they get past the hangar, they just can swing around and go back and have breakfast at
Yep.
West Side if they want, or go about their day. But we always seem to get a really good group that that follows all the way through. And,
Oh, yeah.
and the fire departments who are there with the
Oh, my
flags, and I
gosh.
mean, it's beginning to end. It's just nice.
Yeah, the police.
Great
the
thing to be a
police-
part of.
The police, the,
Oh my gosh.
the motorcyclists we've mentioned, and the the fire departments and those type of people, that volunteers that show up, and
I
and
can't
veterans,
imagine.
the veterans organizations. It's just
Yep.
The
so much.
Mustang groups. I mean, there's just some of they're
Yeah.
always there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and those
Yeah.
that Mustang group now in parades, I see them
Yeah.
Yes.
driving honor flight people through in parades and so on. So
Yeah, the float became an issue with, I don't know, it's tough. You know, you not only doing all the work to pull these honor flights off, but to devote weekend days to parades in different towns just kind of got overbearing. So the Mustang clubs are going to be in the parades anyway, and we can get our veterans in those Mustangs. Works for us.
and who doesn't want to ride in a Mustang?
There you go.
Absolutely.
Especially some of those. Oh my gosh. No, they're beautiful rides. And there's another thing you can count on. You know when you pull down New York Avenue, when you get next to that fire truck that's got the flag hanging over the road, that Mustang Club's gonna be sitting right there on your left. Count on it.
Okay, so the return at night. Usually, is there a time that you know?
Yep.
Do you know ahead of time?
We booked it for 7 o'clock, which should get us back here around 8:30. We're hoping that stays, the rest of the year, and it holds good.
Again, people can come here to the Oval to
Yep.
welcome folks back. There's no room over at the hangar,
Right.
but they can come back here to the Oval, and certainly family, anybody who's picking them up or doing anything.
Yeah, you don't just drop the veteran off and leave them.
It's happened.
But we'll have quite a few fire trucks, motorcycles, law enforcement, all over at the hangar to escort those
I want to
guys
hear
back
more
here.
about this happened thing
I'll tell you.
off camera.
Yeah, I think that's better.
Next morning there was a
No, actually, you know what? We did have and he was a fellow from out of ways. I mean, in Clinton County, but and nobody from his family was here that night when we got back.
wow.
And I walked over to one of the young troopers and said to him, this guy doesn't have a ride. And he walked over and he said to him, hey, and I don't want to mention the town, but
Yeah.
he said, hey, I'm headed for. You want to go with me? And put the guy in the front seat of the car and put his sirens on. And I think it was one of the best rides that veteran had ever had. He was so thrilled. So, yeah, that's the only one I've seen. But it was just kind of sad that day.
Oh yeah.
It's sad when, the
Yeah.
veterans out there with no family.
Wow.
Some of them, the problem is, I know last year, the one we took from Vermont, he had outlived his sons and daughters. So
Wow.
he's all by himself, didn't have anybody to go with him. Very sad.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've got that right. Well, we've pulled it together now, but we have a fellow right now that's in a nursing home.
Yeah.
And he's going to be able to go. He's
And
always in a
we're going to
nursing
be able
home.
to get him to go. Of course, we did last year too. We had a guy up in Malone. This guy's from over in Vermont, but no family. And we've pulled it together. We've
Yeah.
got it so that.
Yeah.
But he's in
He'll
a
have a great
rehab
life.
facility. And
You just remind him
And
when,
not doing- yeah.
he's revising his will. My name
yes,
is here's how my name is spelled. Since he has no family.
yeah. So it's those are the tough ones to. But there's
Yeah.
always people ready to step up and go with them.
Yeah. I had an opportunity for a lighter moment when I knew what time the escort was going to be picking up George Brendler in Shazy, so I camped outside his house and had a camera. So I started off the video saying that I heard the police were arriving here to pick up George.
Finally gonna get George Brendler. We've been trying to get him for years.
So some people watched it for a couple minutes before we got to the fact that it was the honor flight. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure that happens in communities.
Yeah.
Police shows up at the neighbor's house in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
with the sirens and the lights flashing, and what the heck's going on?
Yeah, yeah.
But I'll tell you what, of all the years, how many, 10 years now, of all the whistles and sirens and noise and motorcycle noise and everything else, one complaint.
One.
One.
But she consistently complains.
This one we will not mention on the video.
And it's a strange thing. It's just, she supports our veterans, glad to see them have that kind of day, but do
Quietly.
you have to do that at 6 o'clock in the morning? It's like,
Can't they?
pretty much.
Can't they take a noon flight? You know?
So only disappointing one person in the whole
That's not
array
bad.
of things. I think we take that and smile. Should send her a gift certificate for dinner or something.
Invite her to the West Side Ballroom. Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Come for breakfast.
As long as you're up.
I'll go to the bikers drive her over. Okay, so anything that you guys wanted to say?
I think we pretty well covered it.
I know Calvin ain't gonna be smart enough to ask me this, so let me mention
No,
this.
no.
No, I think we covered everything. Like I say, this is a really important year for us. Very crucial. We pull this off. It's a lot more than we've ever done before,
Yep.
and a lot more
Eight
effort,
flights,
a lot
yeah.
more volunteers. Luckily, we've got everybody in position. We think we're so surprised with our early flight leaders that they're so far ahead of the game. It's just scary.
Who are our flight leaders for May?
Mike and Lori Parsons. Mike on flight 36 and Lori Parsons on flight 37.
Oh, okay. So
And they are done. They're
They're done. Well, and again, the advantage of making the phone calls as early as I did, I was able to put the flight list together early, and they picked them up and took off.
gone. Yeah, no,
I mean, I think the ink was still wet on the paper when I said, "Gee, I've got this list." Choosh! They were headed for Vermont and all over the place. So, and in June is Kevin Triller and Valerie. Do we know how to pronounce her last name?
I don't.
DeCombs.
DeCombs,
Maybe.
yeah.
Valerie DeCombs.
Kevin was talking to me about it.
Yeah.
There's a story in
They're
itself.
flight 38
I mean,
and 30, flight 39. So, and they're out there really working hard on with getting the veterans signed up. So, and the hiccups have been on my part. The ones who say, "Oh, I'm not going," or "This isn't," or I said they weren't going. So, but we're working it out. But they've just been outstanding. All four of them have
Yeah.
just been
No,
absolutely
way
outstanding.
above and
And again,
beyond.
I got to say, it really takes a lot of pressure off from me, because last year after Larry and I did so much, and then try to come back and put all the spreadsheets together and get all the paperwork done. They're taking that and doing that this year,
great.
and so it's
because there's like 20 lists that are needed for each.
it
Flight.
gets crazy.
And it just goes to all different people, and everybody needs a little bit of different piece of information pertaining to their own need for the list. So it can get hectic.
I'm getting away with just doing a couple of them that are the easy ones. So just because I know exactly what to do, and they're doing enough, but it's
Well, let's talk too about if people want to help out. You know, we mentioned the donations and
yes.
showing up in here and
That's-
getting people signed up to go. But how about if they just want to lend a helping hand?
If they want to help, then the biggest thing is come to our meetings. Right now, we're going to be pretty scheduled with first and third Wednesdays of every month, starting at 5:30 down at the Keysville VFW. 5:30 we have a little light dinner, nothing real fancy or involved, but always good. Mary and Danny do a great job with that. And then we have the meeting starting at 6 o'clock. And just having people come, listen to what goes on, pay attention to what part might interest you. You know, we never know. You know, helping out with the parking might be something that you feel like you want to help with.
Very
And
simple.
we always need help with that.
Yeah.
We got a couple great volunteers that joined us last year, luckily. But, yeah, it always works, but we can always use help. And if all else fails, you know, the old many hands make light work thing, and it's true. We've got a ton of different directions that we have to go in, and we can always use help. So coming down to the meeting would be the best bet. Like you had said, tonight is actually our next meeting, and then it'll be the first Wednesday in May. That'll be our
First and third. You do it every month.
Yep, yep. We take a break during the winter time. We might do it once during the summer instead of having two, just have one. But during the winter, we try to back off because there's not a whole lot going on.
Well, I hope you're better at scheduling those than you are scheduling this interview. I gave him 3 days, said Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. So which ones he picked? He picks Tuesday when we're getting an April 19th snowstorm.
It started out as only 2 to 4 inches, so I said, "Yeah, that's no problem." Oh,
So we moved it to Wednesday. So.
yeah, it was very wise to move it. Man, that was sloppy, eh?
Oh, jeez.
Who'd have thought?
At least 6 inches of wet snow everywhere in the North Country, and a lot of places had a whole lot more.
Yep. And it went all the way down to Syracuse, eh? I heard some people down there said they got 8 inches.
I don't know how much they got. I had somebody post yesterday. I'm in Maryland and the snow is falling.
Oh my God.
Wow.
So I don't know how widespread the snow showers were, but there's snow showers and then there's snow.
Yes,
And
yes.
we got snow.
We got snow.
Yeah. No, heavy, wet. I
So
didn't even look at it to shovel it or snow blow it or anything. It's
just let
gonna
it
melt.
It's gonna melt. Just walk through it for a day and it'll be gone in 2 days. So anything else, folks?
I think so.
I think you covered everything.
All right, we've mentioned the Irish Person of the Year enough times.
That's it. Plenty of times.
okay,
You can move on from that. Yes.
So we've been talking with Janet Duprey and Barry Finnegan, and any closing things?
I just want to send out another thank you to you guys. You
Absolutely.
and Judy do a wonderful job. Again, we use that as a resource. And so many people, especially the people from out of town, they don't get a chance to see the local pictures or anything like that. So we can send them your address and have them look that up and see the one they're looking for. And it's just a great resource to have. So thank you so much for being there. And not only there on Saturdays, but you know, we've seen the Friday rides as we get off the boat coming across. You're there for that as well. Up in Rouse's Point, we saw that.
That
And,
time they came through there, yeah.
So many events that you cover that are extremely crucial to the history of the North Country. So to be able to look back at it is a great thing, and thank you.
Okay, I just got to point out though, that's a bridge in Rouse's Point. It's not. They don't take the ferry up there.
Did I say
You
ferry?
said boat. You know, I've been doing this for 39 years now, and I've never made a mistake like that. I'll be listening to something, and the guy is standing on second base, and I say he's at third, or I say, you know.
Yep. Where did
And I
that
don't
come
want to
from?
say that Calvin's almost as old as I am, but when he and I first met, my daughter was doing gymnastics, 7th grade.
Jeez. It's a little ways
He
back,
he
eh?
came and videotaped all the gymnastics meets through school. Well, all the schools, but so yeah.
Today she has her own general store.
Yes, she does.
Yeah.
Yes, she does.
Doing well,
and
too.
2 adult
Boy,
grandchildren,
boy.
or their daughters, my grandchildren. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Judy, for running the camera, and thank you,
Yes,
folks,
thank you.
for putting this off till Wednesday so we could.
Yes,
So we can-
absolutely.
Not travel in the snow, eh?
Right. North Country Honor Flight. If you're not familiar with it, you should become, and if you are familiar with it, I'm sure you appreciate the effort that these people and all their volunteers do. Thanks for watching.